Hello everyone. Today our journey is to a time when cold wasn't just discomfort, but a real threat to life. In the Middle Ages, when winter came, it could transform entire villages into silence and snow. But behind the legends of knights and imposing walls, what really decided people's fate was the ingenuity to not freeze. Common families needed to reinvent their homes, clothes, and even the way they slept to survive nights when wind cut like blades. So, before you get comfortable, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe to the channel, the best place on YouTube to discover the most surprising and hidden stories from the past. Comment where you're watching from and tell me, what would be your strategy to face the cold without a modern heater or blanket? Now turn off the lights, wrap yourself in a warm blanket, and let's embark together on this icy journey through the Middle Ages. You wake up. The air is so cold that your breath forms a small cloud in front of you. No, you're not at a meditation retreat in Iceland. You've just been transported to a medieval European village. And it's not summer, not spring, not autumn. It's winter. Medieval winter. The kind where there's no button to turn on the heater, no Uber Eats to order hot soup, and the only health plan available is praying not to die until spring. Congratulations. You just entered the hardcore version of the reality show, Naked and Afraid. The statistics aren't in your favor. In the Middle Ages, winter wasn't just a season, it was a predator. Entire villages disappeared between December and March. Not because they went to Cancun for vacation, but because they died. All of them. If you think 64 degrees is a little chilly, prepare for 4 degrees without a single radiator in sight. If you complain when Wi-Fi goes down for 10 minutes, imagine spending 4 months in almost absolute darkness. If you get irritated when you forget your phone charger, think about spending 120 days literally fighting for your survival. But don't despair, you have this guide. A survival manual written by someone who, unlike you, isn't trapped in the Middle Ages and can give you tips with the comfortable distance of several centuries. Welcome to medieval winter, where each day waking up alive is an achievement worthy of an Olympic medal. Oh, and don't worry about the smell. Soon you'll stink like everyone else too. It's part of the immersive experience. Forget that 750 square foot apartment you complain is cramped. Your new residence is approximately the size of your old bathroom. And unlike your apartment in the gated community, this house was designed by someone who never heard of floor plans, square footage, or building codes. You're looking at a structure that looks more like a hobbit hole than a house, partially buried in the ground, as if the builders gave up halfway through. But it's not laziness, it's medieval engineering. Those 2 feet below ground guarantee up to 10 degrees more warmth. The walls are made of a charming mixture of interwoven branches, mud, straw, and yes, that's exactly what you're smelling, manure. The aroma is memorable, but that living compound insulates better than much modern brick. Your beach house with ocean view couldn't do better against the cold. The ceiling is low, so low you'll hit your head regularly until you learn to walk hunched like a true medieval person. Consider this your new stretching routine. Besides, low ceilings mean less space to heat. Medieval energy efficiency. The windows, if we can call these tiny holes, in the wall that seem to have been made for dwarfs, or perhaps for people who really hate natural light. But again, it's not stupidity, it's survival. Small windows mean fewer points where heat escapes. Right in the center of your new mansion is the fireplace. Not that decorative one from your old living room, with remote control and artificial flames. This one is real, smoky, and basically the beating heart of your existence now. If this fire dies, you'll probably die with it. Oh, and about that smoke that's making your eyes water? It's not a defect, it's a feature. The smoke creates an insulating layer that protects the roof against insects and humidity. In exchange for battered lungs, you gain a few more years of survival. Fair trade, right? You notice the entrance door is strategically positioned away from the prevailing wind direction. The most exposed walls are thicker. The roof has the perfect slope for snow to slide off without tearing away the thatch. Who would have thought your medieval landlords understood so much about bioclimatic architecture? Welcome to your new home. It's small, dark, smoky, and smells like a mixture of sweat, manure, and spoiled food. But in the coming months, it will be the only thing between you and a freezing death. Learn to love it, or at least tolerate the smell. You won't live alone in this medieval paradise. Oh no. Privacy is a concept as futuristic as fiber optic internet. Your new family includes the father, mother, 3 to 5 children of various ages, maybe a grandparent if they were lucky enough to live that long, and surprise, some animals. Yes, you read correctly. Animals. Inside the house. We're not talking about your apartment poodle that wears clothes and has an Instagram profile. We're talking about chickens, pigs, maybe a cow or two. The heat from a cow can increase room temperature by 3 degrees. With 3 or 4 animals, your house becomes a living heater. Your new human roommates aren't exactly like your happy hour friends. For starters, they're significantly shorter than you. The average height of a medieval man was around 5'6", and women, about 5'3". You'll feel like a giant among them. Their teeth are interesting. Medieval oral hygiene basically consists of occasionally rubbing a rough cloth on teeth, maybe with some sage or rosemary. Orthodontic braces? Never heard of them. That crooked canine is a charm that will accompany you to the grave, which, statistically speaking, might not be very far away. Everyone has lice. Everyone. Even the cleanest child in the village has a small civilization thriving on their scalp. Soon, you'll also have your own microscopic tenants. Consider this your new pet, one you don't need to feed since it feeds on you. The notion of personal space simply doesn't exist. At night, this entire collection of humans and lice will sleep on the same wooden platform, piled like sardines in a can. Shared human heat raises the group temperature by up to 8 degrees. Children and elderly stay in the center, adults on the edges. And no, it's not time to show your introverted side. Refusing to participate in this medieval sleepover can literally kill you. Cold doesn't forgive those who prefer to sleep alone with their AirPods and eye mask. As for your bovine and porcine companions, they have a purpose beyond warming the environment. The water vapor from their breathing helps humidify the dry winter air, preventing the house's wood from drying out and cracking. Some strategic arrangements position oxen facing the sleeping area, so warm air from their nostrils circulates through the house. Of course, the smell is, let's say, unique. An aromatic mixture of human sweat, wood smoke, animal manure, and decomposing vegetables. But soon your brain will filter this out, or maybe your olfactory neurons will simply give up and go on permanent strike. Either way, you get used to it. Welcome to your new extended family. They may not have much in common with you, but they share something essential, the desire not to die frozen. It's a stronger bond than any WhatsApp group. Forget that annoying iPhone alarm. Your new alarm is the house rooster, and it doesn't have a snooze function. When it crows around 5 a.m., it's time to get up. Doesn't matter that it's pitch black outside. Doesn't matter that your bed, a sack of straw vaguely shaped like a mattress, is so warm compared to the icy air. The first task of the day is to rekindle the fire. If it went out during the night, you have a serious problem. Actually, serious problem is a euphemism for possible imminent death. In many villages, families take turns on frost watches, ensuring the flame never dies. Those who fail are punished, sometimes with chickens, firewood, or even public shame. You notice something strange. Everyone in the house seems to have just woken up, but also seems to have been awake before. Welcome to the curious custom of first and second sleep. Medieval people slept in 2 shifts. A few hours after nightfall, they'd wake for an hour or 2 in the middle of the night to socialize, pray, or tend animals, then return to sleep until dawn. Breakfast isn't exactly a cappuccino with croissant. It's a bowl of oat or barley porridge, maybe with a piece of old bread dunked in it. There's no coffee. I repeat, no coffee. This is possibly the most inhumane aspect of your new life. Prepare for the worst caffeine withdrawal of your existence. Work begins with the sun. That is, not very early in this Nordic winter. Between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m., the high sun hours, all peasants gather for the heaviest tasks. Going past this schedule is almost criminal. Documents show those who insisted on working in afternoon cold were fined or forced to donate wood to the common. Stock, you won't go to an air-conditioned office. Your new workplace is mainly around the house. Cutting firewood, repairing fences, caring for animals, spinning wool, if you're a woman, or perhaps doing small craft work that can be done indoors, near the fire. Meals are synchronized with the heat of the day. At noon, collective ovens bake bread for the entire village, and their heat warms neighboring houses. There's no ordering delivery at 10 p.m. because you got hungry. You eat when everyone eats, what everyone eats. Nightfall comes early, around 3 or 4 p.m. in the dead of winter. From then on, light comes only from the fireplace, and maybe 1 or 2 tallow candles, made from animal fat, that smell horrible and give less light than your phone's night mode. The nights are long, very long. Without Netflix, without Instagram, without books, most people are illiterate, including you now, unless you can read Latin. Entertainment consists of telling stories, singing, maybe playing simple games with bones or stones, or simply watching The Fire, that primitive TV program that only has one channel. Before sleeping, you join the human pile on the sleeping platform again. Wind howls outside, finding cracks in the walls to enter and remind you that, a few feet away, the temperature could kill a man in hours. Welcome to your new routine. Monotonous? Maybe. But each day you survive following this rhythm is a victory against merciless winter. And in the end, it's not so different from your old office job. You still spend all day waiting to go back to bed. Forget that low-carb diet. Forget intermittent fasting. Forget veganism. In medieval winter, the only diet that matters is the one that keeps you alive. And for that, you'll need calories. Lots of them. Doctors of the era recommended up to 5,000 calories per day, almost double that of a modern Olympic athlete. Your body needs constant fuel to generate heat. In the medieval world, thinness isn't a sign of fitness discipline, but of poverty and possible imminent death. The main dish of your new diet is something called pottage, an eternal stew that bubbles continuously in the fireplace. Yes, eternal, as in never ends. Each day, new ingredients are added to what remained from the previous day. It's the ancestor of your smoothie blender, just never washed and always hot. The base of pottage is roots, turnips, carrots, parsnips, everything that can be stored for months without rotting. In the middle, legumes like peas and beans, rich in protein. On top, grains, oats, barley, rye. Occasionally, a piece of meat enters the mix, usually parts you'd normally throw away. Pig's feet, tails, ears. Medieval bread isn't that artisanal sourdough you pay a fortune for at the gourmet bakery. It's dense, dark, and hard enough to be used as a weapon. Made mainly from rye or barley, it frequently contains ground peas or beans to increase volume when grains are scarce. You notice almost everything is fermented. Not because they're hipsters avant la lettre, but because fermentation preserves food and increases its nutritional value. Beer, thicker than porridge, sauerkraut, pickles, sourdough breads, all are essential sources of vitamins in winter, when fresh vegetables are just a distant memory. Meat is rare, especially at the end of winter. Most animals that aren't essential for work or reproduction are slaughtered at the beginning of the cold season. Meat is preserved through salting, smoking, or simply natural freezing. When you eat meat, it's more like a condiment than a main course. Meals have their own rhythm. Breakfast, porridge and bread. Lunch, the main meal. Pottage, maybe with a chunk of bacon or an egg, if you're lucky. Dinner, more pottage, more bread, maybe some cheese or dried meat. There's no variation. No, let's order Thai food today. It's the same thing, day after day, week after week. Salt is valuable, used sparingly. Sweetness comes mainly from honey. Sugar is an absurd luxury you'll probably never taste. Spices? Unless you're nobility, your seasoning repertoire is limited to local herbs, sage, thyme, rosemary. Drinks are surprisingly diverse, but not in the way you expect. Pure water is rarely consumed. Too risky. Instead, you drink weak beer, low alcohol content about 2 to 3%, cider, mead, fermented honey drink, or small beer, an even more diluted version of beer, frequently consumed even by children. Curiously, this medieval diet has some unexpected benefits. Rich in fiber, poor in refined sugars, and full of fermented foods, it creates an impressively healthy gut microbiome. Paradoxically, your medieval intestines are probably healthier than your modern ones, bombarded by ultra-processed foods. You won't post photos of this food on Instagram. It has no plate presentation. It's food for survival, not to impress. But each spoonful of that eternal pottage contains more than nutrients. It contains the accumulated wisdom of generations who learned to extract the maximum from minimal resources. So, good appetite. Or as your new medieval friends would say, thank God you have something to eat. A perspective that, let's admit, makes your old habit of complaining about delayed delivery seem slightly ridiculous. Forget your latest generation North Face jacket. Forget Italian cashmere. Forget Gore-Tex, Thinsulate, and all those technological fabrics with names that sound like medications. Your new winter collection is rustic. Medieval winter clothing is almost a portable fortress. You'll wear up to 5 layers of wool, and no, they're never washed. Never. The natural grease in the fabric waterproofs it against water. That smell you're sensing? It's the aroma of survival. Your first layer is a chemise, a kind of linen nightgown covering from head to knees. Over it, you wear a wool tunic, then a surcoat, another tunic heavier. If it's really cold, add a garde-corps, a hooded coat, and finally, a cloak, essentially a large piece of fabric you wrap around your body. There are no pants in the modern sense. Men wear brays, something between boxer shorts and pajama pants, tied at the waist with a cord. Over them, chausses, long socks that go to the thigh, attached to brays by cords. It's like wearing pantyhose, but with much less elegance and much more itching. Women wear several layers of skirts and don't wear underwear as you know it. In winter, they simply add more skirts, up to 3 or 4 layers, practically a human onion. Your feet will be wrapped in thick wool socks and then in raw leather shoes. Medieval shoes are surprisingly ingenious. The toe is slightly elevated to minimize contact with the frozen ground. Some have double soles with hay or moss between layers for extra insulation. You notice something curious about these clothes. Inside them, straw and moss are frequently sewn in to retain heat. This is so effective that villages fought over the best moss collection spots. Sphagnum, a specific type of moss, not only insulates, but has antibacterial properties. A bonus when you never wash your clothes. Your head will be covered all the time. Men wear a coif, a cap tied under the chin that looks ridiculous but keeps your ears surprisingly warm. Women wear wimples, fabric covering the head, neck, and lower face. Over these, everyone wears hoods when going out. On the coldest days, you'll see people smearing their faces and hands with animal fat mixed with tree sap, a primitive type of Vaseline. Repulsive? Yes. Effective? Absolutely. It's SPF 50 sunscreen against the cold. Gloves are rare and expensive. Instead, extremely long sleeves with a cut that allows folding over the hands are standard. Or simply stick your hands in your armpits when not using them. Glamorous? No. Functional? Yes. Animal pelts are worn by the more fortunate. These aren't fine, well-tanned furs as you imagine. They're coarse, still with remnants of meat and fat, often with the skin side turned inward. A medieval fox coat would smell so strong it would drive your dog crazy. Modern experiments show these clothes, however primitive they seem, are extraordinarily effective. A person dressed in complete medieval style can withstand temperatures down to 4 degrees for hours. Your $2,000 coat probably doesn't do better than that. Medieval fashion has no seasons or trends. There's no color of the year or prints that came back. There are only locally available fabrics, dyed with local plants in earthy tones, faded, greens, washed-out blues and reddish browns. No neon, no bright polyester. Welcome to your new wardrobe. It itches, weighs tons, smells like a dead animal, and is practically immune to washing. But it will keep you alive when the thermometer plunges to temperatures that would make your freezer seem like the Caribbean. And let's face it, nobody's taking selfies here anyway. That daily hot shower you so appreciate, forget it. In the Middle Ages, during winter, bathing is considered not just unnecessary, but potentially fatal. The belief, not entirely incorrect, is that water opens pores and allows cold and diseases to enter the body. Your new cleaning regimen is minimalist. Once a week maybe, you'll wash partially with a damp cloth slightly warmed. The parts that receive attention are face, hands, and genitals, in that order of priority. The rest of the body remains in its natural state, protected by a layer of accumulated dirt that, ironically, offers some protection against cold. You don't have toothpaste. Instead, your teeth are occasionally rubbed with a rough cloth, maybe with ashes, slightly abrasive, or aromatic herbs to mask breath. Some people use chewed willow twigs as primitive toothbrushes. The bark contains compounds similar to aspirin, which help relieve gum pain. Deodorant. Hilarious. In medieval winter, everyone smells like a mixture of sweat, smoke, manure, and rancid food. It's the perfume of survival. After a few weeks, you won't even notice. Your brain will simply filter ambient odors as normal. Toilet paper is a futuristic fantasy. In its place, you'll use dried moss, soft hay, straw, or if you're lucky, a piece of old wool. The more sophisticated use water when available, but in winter, that means breaking ice first. An effort few. Consider worthwhile for such purpose. Lice are your new permanent companions. Everyone has them. Lice picking is a social activity. Families take turns searching for and crushing the small parasites on each other. It's disgusting, but strangely comforting, like a primitive bonding ritual. Menstruating women use reusable linen cloths, rarely washed during winter. Menstruation, however, is often irregular or absent during the harshest months. The female body shuts down non-essential functions when resources are scarce and temperatures extreme. Clothes are rarely washed in winter. Instead, they're hung outdoors on particularly cold and dry days. The cold kills some parasites and air removes part of the odor. Medieval dry cleaning, if you prefer. Shaving is rare in winter. Beards provide natural facial insulation. Women also let body hair grow more, not for some avant-garde feminist statement, but because every millimeter of insulation counts when you're a week away from freezing to death. Hair is washed maybe once a month, with fermented urine, rich in ammonia, a primitive detergent, or ashes diluted in water. In between, hair is kept under caps, scarves, or hats, accumulating its own ecosystem of dirt, oil, and small inhabitants. Nails are cut with small knives or simply bitten. Calluses on hands are valued. They're medals of honor from manual work and offer additional protection against cold. Privacy for bodily functions is a fluid concept. In many houses, the chamber pot, if there is one, simply sits in a corner, maybe with an improvised curtain. More frequently, people just briefly step out to use a communal latrine or the nearest woods, even with snow up to their knees. This new approach to hygiene would be considered gross negligence by modern standards, but in medieval context, it's perfectly adapted to circumstances. The natural oil layer on skin offers some protection against cold. Collective body odor adds to the warmth of the densely populated house. and energy conserved by not constantly washing is energy your body can use to stay warm. Welcome to your new personal care routine. None of this will appear on Pinterest or Instagram, but it will keep you alive until spring, which, let's admit, is the only beauty goal that really matters now. Feeling sick? In pain? In the medieval world, your health plan is basically a combination of superstition, random plants, and lots of luck. No emergency room, no antibiotics, no x-rays. Just accumulated wisdom from centuries of trial and error, with emphasis on error. Your local doctor didn't attend Harvard. In fact, he probably can't even read. He's more likely the old village woman who knows medicinal plants, or the local barber who, besides cutting hair, also practices bloodletting and extracts teeth. Yes, the same person who shaves your beard might also amputate your gangrenous limb. Medieval versatility. The dominant medical theory involves the four humors: blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile. Any illness is attributed to an imbalance of these bodily fluids. Fever? Too much blood, let's drain some. Cough? Excess phlegm, take something to make you vomit. It's essentially guessing with extra steps. For colds and coughs, practically guaranteed during winter, you'll be treated with herb infusions like thyme, sage, mint, or rosemary. Surprisingly, some of these plants actually have antimicrobial and anti-inflammatory properties. Others are completely useless, but at least make you feel like you're doing something. Headaches are treated with vinegar compresses on the forehead, tight bands around the temples, or massages with lavender or rosemary oils. If nothing works, there's always bloodletting, because clearly the problem is you have too much blood in your body. Wounds are treated with honey, legitimately antibacterial, spider webs, surprisingly effective for clotting, or herb poultices. If the wound gets infected, and it probably will, expect progressively more drastic treatments, culminating in cauterization with hot iron. Anesthesia? A swig of strong liquor and a piece of leather to bite. Joint pain, common in damp cold, is treated with hot compresses, animal fat ointments mixed with herbs, or even applications of live frogs. Yes, really. The theory was the frog would extract the evil causing pain. It didn't work, obviously, but at least you got an interesting story to tell. Toothaches are particularly feared. Treatment options include rinsing mouth with vinegar, applying garlic, or cloves directly to the cavity, or in extreme cases, extraction without anesthesia. The medieval tooth extractor looks more like a torture instrument than medical equipment, and basically is digestive problems, constipation, diarrhea, indigestion, are treated with herbal mixtures that are laxative or astringent, depending on symptoms. Oak bark for diarrhea, senna for constipation. The monotonous winter medieval. Diet makes intestinal problems particularly common. Who would have thought eating the same stew for 4 consecutive months could cause problems? Pregnant women don't have ultrasound, prenatal tests, or epidural. Birth happens at home, assisted by local midwives. Surprisingly, many of these midwives are extremely skilled, with knowledge passed through generations. Still, maternal and infant mortality is frighteningly high, especially in winter, when resources are scarce and infections more common. Fractures are treated with wooden splints and tight bandages. If bones are lined correctly, you can recover reasonably well. If not, well, prepare for a life of chronic pain and limited mobility. Medieval physiotherapy basically consists of use it until it stops hurting or you get used to the pain. Disease. Prevention is a peculiar mix of superstition and practical wisdom. You'll be advised to wear amulets of dried herbs hanging from your neck to ward off diseases, ineffective, but also to avoid visibly sick people, sensible, and keep warm and well-fed, scientifically correct. Mental health isn't a concept as you know it. Depression, anxiety, and other disorders are attributed to spiritual or supernatural causes. Winter melancholy, what we'd call seasonal affective disorder today, is treated with St. John's wort infusions, which, curiously, has compounds with mild antidepressant effects, more sunlight when possible, and prayers. Many prayers. Serious diseases like pneumonia, particularly common in winter, usually result in death. Without antibiotics, severe lung infection is essentially a death sentence. Families will gather around the sick person, trying increasingly desperate treatments, praying continuously, while the person slowly suffocates on their own lung fluids. The most terrifying aspect of your new medieval healthcare system is the complete lack of control. Diseases seem to arise randomly, attack without apparent reason, and disappear or kill by their own whim. There's no understanding of germs, viruses, or bacteria. Disease is seen as divine test, punishment for sins, or result of miasmas, bad airs, or noxious vapors. Paradoxically, some medieval health practices are surprisingly effective. Isolating the sick, even without understanding why it worked, helped contain epidemics. Certain medicinal herbs actually contain pharmacologically active compounds. An emphasis on staying warm, well-fed, and properly rested is valid medical advice even today. In medieval winter, you quickly learn the best medicine is preventive. Don't get hurt, don't get sick, don't age. Because once something goes wrong with your body, options are limited, painful, and frequently worse than the original disease. Welcome to your new health plan. No copay, no monthly premium, no network providers. Just herbs, prayers, and hope that your body is tough enough to heal itself. And if all else fails, well, there's always bloodletting, because obviously the problem is you have too much blood. Netflix, Spotify, YouTube, Instagram, forget all that. Your medieval entertainment package is significantly more analog and surprisingly social. When you can't isolate yourself with headphones and a screen, you need to actually interact with other human beings. Shocking, I know. Winter nights are long. Very long. The sun sets at 3 or 4 p.m., leaving you with up to 14 hours of darkness to fill. With lighting limited to a smoky fireplace and maybe 1 or 2 tallow candles, activities requiring detailed vision are out of the question. No infinite scrolling through feeds. You couldn't even read a book, even if you had one, which is unlikely. The main form of entertainment is storytelling. Not random internet stories, but tales transmitted orally through generations. Local legends, saints' lives, folk tales, heroic epics, all narrated from memory, often embellished by the teller. The best storytellers are local celebrities, invited to dinner in wealthier homes in exchange for entertainment. Music is ubiquitous. Not that perfect playlist you created on Spotify, but folk songs sung in groups, often accompanied by simple instruments, wooden flutes, rustic fiddles, drums, or simple improvised percussion on tables and buckets. Everyone participates. There's no clear distinction between performers and audience. Board games exist, but they're not Monopoly or Catan. You'll find primitive versions of checkers, Nine Men's Morris, a strategy game played with stones, on a drawn board, or Fox and Geese, an asymmetric game where one player controls a fox trying to capture other players' geese. Boards are often scratched on tables or carved in wood, with pieces made from stones, bones, or wood. Card games are rare and expensive. Cards are luxury items made by hand. Instead, dice games are popular, made from animal bones and used to bet small items, nuts, twigs, favors. Rules are surprisingly complex and vary from village to village. Alcohol plays an important role in medieval entertainment. Beer isn't just a drink, but a source of nutrition and social lubricant. In winter, hot drinks like heated mead, fermented honey, or wassail, a kind of spiced apple cider, are particularly popular. Drunkenness isn't stigmatized. It's practically a survival strategy to make the long, cold nights bearable. Religious festivals punctuate winter, offering rare moments of joy and excess amid austerity. Medieval Christmas isn't one day, but 12, from Christmas to Epiphany, January 6th, with different celebrations each day.
There's also the Feast of St. Nicholas, December 6th, St. Lucy, December 13th, and the peculiar Feast of Fools, a day of social inversion where servants become masters and vice versa. Children play with simple toys, rag dolls, wooden tops,
Leather balls filled with straw. Playing in snow is popular. Snowmen and snowball fights aren't modern inventions. Improvised sleds made from large animal bones allow sliding down snowy hills. Primitive but effective fun. Amateur theater is surprisingly common. Performances of biblical stories, mysteries, or moralities are performed by local amateurs. Without elaborate artificial lighting or special effects, these presentations depend on masks, improvised costumes, and the audience's imagination. Female roles are usually played by men or boys. Shakespeare didn't invent this practice. For the more intellectual, there are verbal puzzles, riddles, and enigmas transmitted orally. Some of these puzzles have survived for centuries and are still recognizable today. They often mix religion, nature, and daily life in complex metaphors. Crafts aren't just work, but also pastime. Men carve wood, repair tools, or make small, useful objects. Women spin, weave, embroider, or make lace if they have skill and materials. These activities are done in groups, transforming necessary work into socialization opportunities. Nature observation is entertainment in itself. Following weather patterns, watching animals, discussing signs of seasonal change, all are activities that fill hours of conversation. Your knowledge of nature will be incomparably deeper than that of the typical modern urbanite. When all else fails, there's always gossip. Without privacy and with few secrets, medieval villages are incubators of complex and evolving gossip. Who's courting whom? Which families are fighting? Who had a suspiciously good harvest? All are narratives followed with obsessive interest, analyzed and discussed exhaustively during long winter nights. The most surprising aspect of medieval entertainment is how much of it is participatory. There's no clear distinction between entertainment producers and consumers. Everyone sings, everyone tells stories, everyone plays. Your value as company isn't determined by how many likes you get, but by how much you contribute to collective entertainment. Welcome to your new entertainment regime. No screens, no feeds, no streaming. Just humans interacting with other humans, creating fun from nothing. It seems primitive, but there's something strangely satisfying about it. A connection you might not have experienced since your smartphone became an extension of your hand. Forget your 500-plus Facebook friends and 1-200 Instagram followers. Your new social network consists of about 50 to 150 people, all living within walking distance. And unlike your digital connections, you actually know each of them. Their names, personalities, family histories, skills, weaknesses, and probably the smell of their unwashed bodies. The medieval village isn't just a random grouping of houses. It's an intricate social organism, intertwined by mutual obligations, shared traditions, and brutal need for cooperation. In winter, this social web is your literal safety net, the difference between survival and freezing death. Social hierarchy is more rigid and more fluid than you imagine. There's a local lord, probably living in a slightly better stone house or nearby small castle. Below him, maybe a priest or monk administering the local church. Then comes a layer of more prosperous peasants, specialized artisans, and finally, serfs and poorer workers. But within this structure, there's surprising mobility. A skilled blacksmith might have more practical respect than an impoverished knight. A widow who manages her property well might wield considerable influence. In winter especially, status is often determined by who has resources to share and who needs help to survive. Decision-making is communal in ways that would surprise both modern socialists and capitalists. Many villages have an informal council where representatives of important families discuss common issues: when to plant, where to graze animals, how to distribute scarce resources. In particularly difficult winters, collective rationing might be implemented, each family contributing and receiving according to their needs and abilities. Justice is local and immediate. There's no police, formal courts, or prisons as you know them. Minor infractions are resolved through direct compensation or community service. More serious crimes might result in banishment, a virtual death sentence in winter, or, in extreme cases, community execution. Most conflicts, however, are mediated by village elders, with emphasis on restoring social harmony rather than abstract punishment. Religion isn't a Sunday activity. It's the framework that gives meaning to existence. The local church is both social and spiritual center. The religious calendar dictates the rhythm of community life. Patron saints protect specific trades and cure particular diseases. Prayers are recited before each meal, upon waking, when sleeping, during storms, practically continuously. Faith isn't a personal choice, but the fabric of shared reality. Winter brings specific community rituals. In many villages, families take turns on frost watches, ensuring no fireplace goes out during the night. Those who fail are punished, sometimes with fines of food or firewood, sometimes with public shame. A single extinguished fireplace can mean death for the most vulnerable. Heat halls, usually the church or the most prosperous village's house, are established for the most fragile during the coldest days. Elderly, sick, pregnant women, and small children are taken to these communal spaces where several fireplaces are kept burning. It's a primitive but effective social welfare system. Privacy, as you understand it, doesn't exist. Your house is small and shared with extended family and animals. Your walls are thin. Every detail of your life, from marital fights to hygiene habits, is known and commented on by everyone. This level of forced transparency creates a natural system of social control. Antisocial behavior rarely goes unnoticed or unanswered. Reputation is your most valuable social currency. Being known as hardworking, generous, and trustworthy means access to support networks in difficult times. Being considered lazy, selfish, or dishonest can result in subtle exclusion, a potential disaster when each social connection might be the difference between life and death. Marriage isn't a matter of romantic love, but an economic and social alliance between families. In winter, few marriages occur. Spring and summer are preferred for such celebrations. Still, courtship continues during long nights, with young people finding moments of relative privacy during festivals or communal work. Death is a constant presence, especially in winter. When someone dies, the entire community participates in mourning and funeral rituals. In frozen ground, bodies might be stored in cold places until earth softens enough for burials. Each death is both personal tragedy and community reminder of life's fragility. The most notable aspect of your new medieval community is how interdependent everyone is. You depend on others for practically everything: defense, medical assistance, entertainment, emotional support, and during winter, even for basic survival. There are no self-made men in a medieval village. There are only people who recognize their mutual dependence and those who will soon die trying to prove otherwise. Welcome to your new social network. No like button, no block option, no anonymous. Browsing mode. It's an imperfect community, often suffocating, occasionally cruel, but surviving a medieval winter is a collective enterprise. And maybe, after a few weeks here, you'll start to realize there's something strangely comforting about belonging so completely to a place and its people. In the modern world, you live in perpetual time scarcity. Here, in your new medieval life, you'll experience something paradoxical. Days that seem interminable, but a constant sense of urgency. Time isn't divided into precise increments of minutes and seconds, but into seasons, moon phases, sun positions. You don't have a clock. Nobody does. Time is marked by the church bell, by sunrise and sunset, by the rooster's crow. Your new temporal terms are prime, first hour after dawn, terce, sext, nones, and vespers, evening. It's surprisingly imprecise by modern standards. but perfectly adequate for coordinating community life. Winter brings strange temporal distortion. Days are short. In December, you might have only 8 hours of sunlight, often obscured by grey clouds. Nights are interminable, up to 16 hours of almost total darkness, broken only by the orange glow of the fireplace and occasional stars visible through roof cracks. Preparation for winter begins long before the first snowflakes. From late summer, your community is obsessively accumulating resources, cutting and drying firewood, slaughtering surplus animals, and preserving their meat, harvesting and storing grains, roots and fruits, repairing roofs and walls before weather becomes too hostile. Firewood specifically dominates collective thinking. A typical family needs 10 to 20 loads of wood to survive winter. This means cutting trees in spring, letting them dry during summer, chopping them into logs in autumn, and finally transporting them home before the first snow. It's an entire year-long planning project just to be able to stay warm. Medieval winter isn't uniform. It has its own micro-seasons. Early winter, usually November, still allows some outdoor work. Deep winter, December-January, is a time of almost total seclusion. Late winter, February-March, brings renewed hope, but also the scarcest resources when stocks begin running out before new harvest arrives. The moon gains new importance in your temporal consciousness. On clear nights, full moon transforms the snowy landscape into an almost daylight scene, allowing rare nighttime outdoor activities. Moonless nights are feared. Complete darkness brings predators closer to villages and makes even the short walk to stable or latrine dangerous. Winter is when the true essence of medieval time reveals itself. Alternation between frenzy and tedium. There are days of furious work when weather briefly improves, repairing storm-damaged fences, clearing snow from roofs before their weight causes collapse, rushing to hunt when wild animals are spotted. These are interspersed with days of forced inactivity, when blizzard or extreme cold make it impossible to go out. Elders become living timepieces. Without extensive written records, communal memory resides in the oldest. They're constantly consulted. Was the winter of 1342 as bad as this one? When should we expect the thaw based on previous years? How long did our provisions last in the last severe winter? Their memories are more valuable than any modern weather forecast. The concept of punctuality, as you know, it doesn't exist. Nobody is late for work. Work happens when conditions allow and continues until it's completed or light runs out. Appointments are vague, after Mass, before nightfall, when the cows are milked. This flexibility isn't laziness, but adaptation to a world where weather and seasons, not arbitrary clocks, dictate life's rhythm. Winter creates a peculiar sense of suspension. Life doesn't stop, but enters a state of vigilant waiting. Fields sleep under snow, animals hibernate, visible growth ceases. You feel like you're collectively holding your breath, waiting for spring to allow everyone to exhale again. Night brings its own distinctive rhythm. The custom of first and second sleep, sleeping a few hours after nightfall, waking for an hour or two in the middle of the night, then returning to sleep until dawn, creates a nocturnal period of wakefulness that would be strange to modern sensibilities. This nighttime interlude is often dedicated to prayer, meditation, conjugal relations, or checking on animals. Medieval Christmas doesn't mark midwinter as many think today. It's just the beginning of the most difficult period. The true landmarks are Candlemas, February 2nd, when days noticeably lengthen, and spring equinox, around March 21st, when day and night equalize, signaling winter's true end. Time counting in years also differs from your understanding. Years aren't universally numbered from Christ's birth, though this system is gaining acceptance. Instead, years are often referenced by significant events: the winter after the Great Flood, 2 years since the king visited, the year of the locust plague. It's a community calendar, rooted in shared experience rather than mathematical abstraction. Paradoxically, while time seems to move slower, there's constant urgency in your relationship with it. Each hour of sunlight is precious. Each task has its ideal window. Missing that window can have disastrous consequences. This isn't the artificial rush of corporate deadlines, but the real urgency of working with natural rhythms before opportunity passes. Welcome to your new relationship with time. No smartphone constantly reminding you of appointments. No relentless ticking marking each passing second. Just the slow arc of the sun, the gradual unfolding of seasons, and the deep understanding that however long winter seems, spring will eventually come, as it always has, for countless generations before you. Spring finally arrives. Snow melts, revealing a reborn world. You survived. Against all odds, against brutal cold, against persistent hunger, against interminable darkness, you're alive. To see another year begin. Looking back at your medieval winter experience, you realize something surprising. Those people you initially considered primitive, dirty, and ignorant possessed wisdom the modern world has largely forgotten. Wisdom not from books or universities, but from visceral necessity and accumulated experience. They understood systems at an intuitive level our environmental engineers struggle to articulate. Nothing was wasted. Every resource was valued, reused, transformed. The manure that strengthened their walls also fertilized their fields. The animals that warmed their houses also plowed their lands and provided milk. The smoke that irritated their eyes also preserved their food and protected their roofs. Their ingenuity was remarkable. Without calculators or design software, they built houses perfectly adapted to local climate, oriented to maximize solar gain, with roof slopes precisely calculated for snow melting. They developed complex food preservation methods, clothing manufacturing techniques, and agricultural strategies, all transmitted orally, refined through generations. Their resilience was extraordinary. Without accurate weather forecasts, without guaranteed heating, without modern supply chains, they developed communities capable of withstanding challenges that would paralyze us. A 2-hour power outage panics us. They routinely navigated months of conditions we'd consider apocalyptic. Most impressive was their conscious interdependence. They had no illusions of self-sufficiency. They understood at the most fundamental level that human survival is a collective project. Winter sculpted their societies to value cooperation over competition, generosity over accumulation, not through abstract idealism, but practical necessity. When temperature dropped below freezing, when food grew scarce, when darkness seemed endless, it didn't matter who had the largest plot of land or finest tunic. What mattered was community strength, depth of shared knowledge, everyone's willingness to contribute to collective good. It's easy to romanticize the past, ignore the hardship. Disease, infant mortality, hunger. There's no desire to return to medieval life. But there are lessons we should learn from it. In our pursuit of individual comfort, we've outsourced our interdependence to systems so complex they've become invisible. We might not need our neighbors to survive winter, but does that mean we truly don't need them? Or just that the chains connecting us have grown so long we can no longer see them? In our dizzying rush, we've lost intimacy with natural rhythms our medieval ancestors knew so well. They understood there's a time for frantic work and a time for patient quietude, a time for accumulation, and a time for surviving on what was stored. In our abundance, we've forgotten scarcity's value as teacher. Medieval winter forced deep appreciation for small pleasures. The first spring green sprouting through snow, warmth of a single sunray on a cold day, simple joy of having survived another day. Perhaps there's wisdom in remembering we are, as a species, survivors of countless winters. Our ancestors faced unimaginable cold with nothing but fire, wool, and each other, and prevailed. That resilience is coded in our DNA, even when our climate-controlled lives obscure it. Medieval winter was brutally difficult, often fatal, and no one sane would wish to return to it. But amid darkness and cold, there was clarity we might have lost. Understanding that, in the end, we're fragile creatures in an indifferent world, and our greatest strength always was, always will be, each other. As you watch the last snowbank melt, revealing first green grass beneath, you carry this understanding back to your modern world, a newfound appreciation for warmth, light, abundant food, and perhaps most importantly, recognition of the invisible collective work that maintains these luxuries, and how much we lose when we forget that, deep down, we're still those medieval peasants, trying to survive another winter together. If you enjoyed this journey through the freezing nights of the Middle Ages, share the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell. That way you never miss the next stories that show how the past can be even more incredible than we imagine.